SABC News education reporter Mahlako Komane, who's been tracking that story. A very good afternoon to you, Mahlako. Talk to us about what else we know and what possible plans there are to keep people in school safe.
Yes, good afternoon to you, Nzinka, and the viewers at home, rather. You know, Nzinka, you did hear the Education Minister speaking about, 3 incidences that she mentioned, that this was not the first time, saying that schools are vulnerable, to criminal activity. But also, quite importantly, Nzinka, if you look at, the historic challenges that schools have faced in terms of security, the issue of criminals actually targeting schools has not, it's not a new thing. Be it they're stealing ITC equipment, be it they're vandalizing schools, there is that generic problem. We know in Gauteng it's been said that, there's not enough money to put up security, private security at schools. You now have to, decide, are you trying to build up more classrooms? Are you trying to ensure that children are fed? Are you trying to ensure that there's more educators versus, trying to keep out criminals out of school grounds? But also we know that it's, in fact, nationally as well as provincially, we've seen cases where, the department has appealed to communities to also play their part in ensuring that schools are safe, because at the end of the day, these schools are within the communities that they're in. It's communities also their responsibility to see that their children have a place to actually go to school when it's actually time for the school bell to ring.
Mahlako, let's go back to specifically that high school, Phomolong in Tembisa. Where are we in terms of answers as to who may be behind the deputy principal's murder?
Nzinga, when the story broke on, I think it was Friday evening where I saw the story, it was alleged that this educator was gunned down by disgruntled matriculant. You remember we had just come out of that particular matric week in terms of the results and so forth. But then later, as we started seeing comments coming out from the provincial department and so forth. It was said that we should wait for investigations. When we asked the minister today in terms of what is it that she knows, and also I suppose listening into her address at the school assembly to the educators as well as the learners at Phomolong Secondary, she did say that for now the report that she has been given and the report that she has is that it was not necessarily a learner, but she couldn't also say no. What she said was that investigations were, are continuing, and police are still out there searching for the particular perpetrators. But also, we didn't really get that finite answer whether it was students or not. Right now, I think that we're going to leave that to speculation and say that is speculation as to who exactly was responsible for that. But saying that it was, she said she was traumatized when she read that it could possibly be learners. That, how do we nurture these children? How do we educate them only to find that they will, they're going to kill you? Saying she was very sorry to educators in terms of what is it that had happened, but also saying that she hopes this is not the case. But so far, what she's hearing, police are on the ground looking for, the criminals or the people that have, that killed this particular deputy principal.
Mahlako, when we take a look at the state of schools in Gauteng province, I know you've touched on it a little bit earlier on, but let's go deeper into that. And what is the state of security and what is the state of schooling in light of some of these criminal events that are taking place?
Nzinga, the issue of security, when there are expensive equipment in certain areas, like when we see these huge ITC schools, let's speak specifically to Gauteng, what we have done. When you would remember that just before COVID, so it was about 2018, 2019, it's a huge school that was built in Tsakane on the East Rand. The school was about 1 million rands that was spent on this particular school. A week or 2 weeks later, in fact, I think it was a week, the following week, we heard that there were tablets that had been stolen from this particular school, the screens and so forth. These were later discovered, I think another week later or so, in the Johannesburg Central District. I do remember, getting that call saying here are some of the tablets that were discovered. This issue became the issue of security, that this was not the only time that schools like this became, schools like this became targets of criminals. The MEC had said, speaking about millions of rands that were lost, saying that communities. I remember specifically him addressing that community in Tsakane, saying that somebody here somewhere knows what has happened. We don't live, we don't live in isolation. We live as a community. Somebody needs to come out and tell them what exactly is it that happened here, and also imploring the community to ensure that when we come here and we invest such huge amounts of money, can communities also take their level of responsibility? And I think it's not only that, but when you see issues of vandalism, they'll tell you that we will only come in back here after we've pushed the backlog that the province has in terms of schooling. So, and school, yes, on a Monday to Friday, 8 to 3 or so forth, school normally does carry on. But it would seem that when the lights go off, or rather when the polo lights go on at night, certain activities or criminal activities become rampant in these type of schools. You'll also notice, Nzinga, I know for a fact at my child's school, it's a no cash area. As a result of that schools were becoming soft targets for criminals as well, in terms of the petty cash bit you're paying your school fees or parts of your school fees. A lot of schools not taking on cash anymore, right down to tuck shop monies that they just won't have cash on the premises because they've seen that they're increasingly becoming targets, and because there is no security at a lot of these schools. It's only at schools that are well funded where you will see some sort of security, but even then it's not armed security. It's not security that is able to deal with hardened criminals, if you may.
Mahlako Komane, SABC News education reporter, joining me there for that story on Pumulong Secondary School, and of course taking a look at the issue of security in schools.